Hey everyone, so today I'm going to talk about how to improve your relationship, and I'm going to go over the types of skills that a therapist would work on or a life coach would work on with you so that you know what are actually the goals for improving your relationship. But before we begin, go ahead and click on the subscription button and on the notification bell to be notified every time there's a new video about relationships, about life coaching, about nutrition or wellness in general. Okay, so maybe this is obvious, maybe this isn't, but the very first thing that you are going to be working on in a coaching or therapy session is improving communication skills. So sometimes it might be as simple as just actually talking. Perhaps you're in a relationship and the reason you guys are having problems is because you don't actually talk about anything in your relationship. Neither of you are talkers, or it's gotten to the point where you're so alienated from each other that you don't have conversations. But the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to start talking. You're going to start communicating, and you're going to have a coach or a therapist that's going to be asking probing questions, maybe questions that are the elephant in the room that neither of you want to bring up, but having somebody else bring them out, allows you to bring things out into the open that aren't being openly discussed. But really, the first goal in your relationship, if you're going through a coaching or therapy, is to improve your communication skills. So this is something that you can do on your own by just sitting down and starting to talk about things. If something's bothering you, instead of shoving it down, bring it up. Have a conversation about it. Talk about it. Now, if you're not used to doing this, this might be very uncomfortable, particularly if it's talking about the negative, if it's talking about something that you've pushed down, or if it's actually even just bringing up something you didn't even realize you were angry about until you started talking. But just the act of beginning to say things out loud that you're feeling in your stomach, that you're feeling in your heart, it's coming up in your mind, is going to open something up in your relationship. But you want to balance this, because obviously if all your conversations are going to be about what you don't like, about what's making you miserable in your relationship, then it's going to start feeling heavy. The relationship is going to start feeling like excuse my language, but a bitch fest. And so if you're going to start opening up communication and you're the one doing it, I obviously advocate for both partners being able to do this, but if you are on your own and you're the only one that's working at the relationship right now and you're still trying to bring about change, then try and balance also with positive communication. If you are going to talk to your partner, try to also talk to them about the things that are positive, the things you like about them, the things you like about your relationship, or just talk about happy things in general. Share your day and what you liked about it. Just talking more can be a life changer in some relationships, particularly if there's a lot of silent treatments or if this is a relationship where you just have stopped talking. If you remember in the beginning of your relationship, you might have had these long flowing conversations because most of your relationship was by phone, or that you were getting to know each other, so it was interesting, your stories were new. What happens over time is sometimes it just gets boring. You already know the person, you know how they spend their days, so you don't talk anymore. So definitely opening up the communication skills. The second thing is building empathy and respect. If your relationship is in a place where it's going downhill, it could be that the only time you're talking or the only interactions you have with each other now are negative, and you've become self-centered around everything that's making you miserable, and it's really hard for you to see the other person. So the second thing is really going to be learning to build your empathy, trying to understand your partner's point of view, listening to them fully without interrupting them, trying to understand where they're coming from, trying to put yourself in your shoes. Oftentimes, once we really get to know our partners, we start realizing all the ways that we're so different from them, and we start getting sick of those differences, and we might not have the ability to put ourselves in their shoes or to care about how they feel or to have empathy. So reminding yourself, to have that basic empathy, to listen to them, to care about how they're feeling about situations instead of making it all about yourself, can really build. And one of the ways to do this is to be respectful. So if you're in public, not saying, not criticizing, not belittling, not swearing at your partner in public. Being respectful of their needs. If you know that there's something that really bothers them, not saying it. Trying to minimize insults or swearing or screaming too loud. Now, I don't say all the way because there has to be some room for self-expression. If you go too far sometimes, then you might feel frustrated. But really just try to have a balance of empathy and respect. Okay, the next thing that you're going to be working on and that you can strive for on your own is effective problem solving and conflict resolution skills. This is a really big one because chances are if you are reaching out for help, it's because you have not gotten to the point where you know how to resolve your problems between the two of you. Something is getting stuck. Either it's transforming into a blame game, either you're refusing to listen to each other, or there's a problem that you just can't come to a solution. So for instance, perhaps there's a problem and both of you are on complete opposite sides of the issue. For instance, one partner wants to move to another state and the other person wants to stay where you are currently living. How do you come to a solution around that? And if both of you are becoming more and more ingrained in that position, you might have a hard time. So effective strategy might be realizing that when you're in couple, a lot of times it can't be all or nothing. It can't be one person's desires win completely over the others. So you might have to come to a compromise. And that compromise might have to look something like, okay, honey, what if we find a way to live between both places? Half a year here, half a year there. Or some other kind of creative compromise so that both of you are happy. Or maybe one person will decide, you know what, it's not as big of a deal for me. I'm gonna give to you here, but in return for moving, then I need a guarantee from you that you're not gonna expect me to find a job right away because I know that in my field, I'm not gonna be allowed to work without passing a bunch of tests or da-da. So that could be another kind of compromise. So really learning how to compromise might be one of the ways that you can improve your conflict resolution skills. If you don't feel that you have the tools to know how to reach impasses, this is where, having outside help, whether it's friends or family or a therapist or a life coach or a spiritual guru, whatever, or even your local pastor or rabbi or imam might be able to help you. The next thing to work on that can be really helpful is strengthening your connections, including your intimacy. I have seen so many couples where it's gotten to a point where they haven't been intimate in months or even years. I've known worked with several couples where they've hit the 2-year mark without any intimacy. Now, I think that for most of us, it should be obvious that this is a big red flag and something that can completely destroy a couple. You can't be a healthy couple without any intimacy. Now, of course, as we get older, perhaps our intimacy needs go down, and perhaps intimacy is not necessarily a full sexual encounter, but having some kind of touch, a loving touch, intimate touch, is what makes the difference between a friendship and a full-out relationship. So that is something that needs to be built, and that can be built through small acts, whether it's making a point of saying, okay, we're going to hold hands every day. We're going to hug once a day. I'm going to commit to giving my partner a kiss every day. But building the connection, the intimacy, making that a priority is the next thing to strive for and to work on. The next thing is minimizing ineffective and threatening patterns. When relationships have gotten the worst of the worst, they're usually at the point where, we're either having full-on fights, full-on drama, full-on silent treatments, full-on not listening to each other, hanging up on each other. This is where we've gotten to a point where we're so frustrated, we're not able to control ourselves anymore, or we've gotten to a point where our partner's so not listening to us that we're pulling out, the full tactics because something is not working. And so we want to find ways that actually make a difference because sometimes drama and full-blown things have their place and are necessary if you guys are really at a place where something needs to change. However, if this becomes habit, if this becomes every day I'm screaming, every day we're hanging up, every day we're giving each other silent treatment for long periods of time, this is toxic. This is not effective. This has become a pattern of ineffective and toxic behavior that's going to make you both feel sick. And you're not going to be able to sit in that place for very much longer. So, taking off the table that these ineffective behaviors are allowed to be routine behaviors. Next is reducing the power struggles. In a relationship, we really need to change the conversation from who is right, who is stronger, who's in charge, to how do we make our love flourish? How do we do this together? And sometimes it does become about power. Perhaps you have one partner that wants to be in control, that wants to tell you what to do, that feels like they're stronger if they're the ones that get to decide. Or, and this can become more and more toxic if it becomes about power. Because in relationship, it's not about power and it's not about being right. It's about coming up with solutions that are effective for both partners. And the next thing is learning to commit to the relationship. Oftentimes, when we are at the end of our, brink, what happens is this ability to on and on threaten each other. Well, if, I'm going to have to get a divorce. Well, I'm leaving. Or maybe they get up and you're in a social situation, they get up and they take off to punish you. Or they use fear tactics, like the hanging up of the phone, like the not coming back home, like flirting with people in front of you. All of this, it needs to be taken off the table. Neither of us should be talking about divorce or separation or running away on a regular basis, because we need to commit to the relationship. People need to feel safe if we want this to work. And again, if this is something you're doing often, it doesn't even have power anymore. So it just doesn't make sense. When you say something, you have to really mean it. And finally, starting to address feelings. It's one thing to talk about our thoughts, but it's something else to just share our feelings. I'm feeling sad today. I'm not sure why. I would love a hug. I'm feeling happy right now. Can you feel happy with me? I'm feeling happy on a daily basis, but you are often sad. You never smile. Like really starting to get familiar with our emotions and feelings and share just the feelings without judgment is one of the ways that we can become a more emotionally intelligent couple. So on that note, there are so many more things that can strengthen and help your couple, but I think that these give you really good basics about the things that professionals will guide you towards and that you can start working on your own. I would love to hear some of the solutions and tactics that you have used to perfect, improve, and get closer within your relationship so that we can all learn from each other. So please do share all of your own tips in the comment section. And even if those are tips that are creative, are off the beaten track, anything so that we can learn from each other. Don't forget to subscribe, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon about how to improve our relationships.